What do women feel when they work with you?
But I don't fix anyone. I've guided them back to themselves.
How did you get there?
If I'm completely honest, it is something I struggle with myself sometimes, rejection, the people pleasing, that journey of my own.
Hi everyone, my name is Margarita Graf, and this is Purpose in Action, a podcast for anyone who's been thinking about following their calling, but doesn't quite know how to do that yet. Every guest on this show has a unique story and usually a real one. Not the polished version, the one with the turning points, the doubt, and the moment everything shifted. Today, I'm sitting down with Rebecca Harrison, an identity reinvention coach, helping women start over and build a life that actually feels like theirs. So let's get into it. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's such an honor and pleasure to have you here. So let's start with, where are you based right now and what's your life looking like in this season?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for having me as well. I'm super excited for this.
Me
too. And thank you for asking me to join. So where I am right now, that's a really good question. Because of course we're talking a lot about reinvention, identity, and I'm sort of in that process myself right now. I live over in England. I moved away for quite some time, came back home, ended up back in my mum's, things like that. So I myself am going through my own little reinvention. Obviously started my business, have started a women's community. So it's interesting when you are having to practice what you preach, which I'm sure we'll get into with the further questions. But yeah, it's something that I must say, if I'm completely honest, it is something I struggle with myself sometimes. I'll wake up some days and I think, oh my gosh, I should be so much further ahead by now, or why have I still not got my shit together, and I do have to be kind to myself, and I'm thinking, I'm telling other women, how to have that self-worth and self-love, and we do, as, coaches in this space, also very much have to practice what we preach and really work on ourselves. So that is very much sort of the season that I am in myself right now as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's very brave, to speak out loud about things like that, because me personally, I'm going through the same season. We're matching. So, and this identity reinvention, I love the way you're talking about it. So that's your whole thing. But if you had to describe what you actually do without using that phrase or job title as a coach, let's say, in a more traditional way, so how would you put it when your purpose is in action? What do women feel when they work with you?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, the best way to describe it, I always say to people, I don't fix anyone. I don't fix anybody. I don't tell anyone what to do. I don't work from some sort of pedestal of I've made it. I think for me, the success I feel when a client has success is, I like to think that I've guided them back to themselves, back to who they truly are, deep down, underneath all of the... Are we allowed to swear on this? I was gonna say BS. Underneath all of those layers of, just societal expectations and where we thought we'd be, who we thought we'd be, what we thought we'd have. And a lot of it is conditioning. A lot of it is conditioning of the society expectations and the way that we've been brought up, the culture that we live in, the family that we've had, our trauma as children, which of course we all have had, regardless of how beautiful our upbringing has been. It shapes us into who we are. So I like to believe that the work that I do, in other words, of identity and reinvention, is actually, it's a rebirth of who this woman truly is deep down. And sometimes we lose that along our path of life. And it's getting that back. But also in a way of choosing choosing who we actually want to be and embodying that version of ourselves to help us get to the life that we want, be the person that we want.
I love how you mentioned that it's by the choice, it's not by the accident. And sometimes I totally agree, even if it doesn't seem like it's our choice of our previous actions and, decisions, I would say, first of all. But it is like that. And a lot of things you've mentioned, like past traumas or something bothering from the outside world. So yeah, but I've also loved how you said that it is pretty much journey and we're walking through it. It's not about the thing that we're fixed ourselves once. That was my problem. I remember that I was about to like, oh, I'm going to fix this, and that, and then I'll be good. But then I just realized that no, it's pretty much path and you have to enjoy it, right?
Yeah,
And
it's so true.
yeah. So thank you so much for bringing this up. It resonates a lot. So, and how did you get there? So what happened that you started following this path?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I'd say my journey in this space very much came from my own story of going through divorce. So it was my own reinvention at a period of my life where, and again, it just brings it back to societal expectations. So it was just before I turned 30 that my husband obviously left. And for me, that was like the biggest failure ever. We hadn't even been married 2 years. I was less than 30 and my marriage was over, and I felt like the absolute biggest failure. And that there was a lot of judgment, but actually that was all in my head, at the end of the day. But also a lot of my journey has been around obviously the divorce, the end of the marriage. I was also in a career that I was really unhappy in, and I was obviously only in it at the time in the NHS in England we have a really good maternity leave, so I was obviously in that job because we was obviously hoping to have a baby and what have you. So when this happened, I had this whole light bulb moment, this like line in the sand, so to speak, of what have I been doing in my life? I've just been settling. I've been in this job that I don't like. My husband's gone. There's nothing stopping me now. So that was what really sort of transformed me into the space of entrepreneurship and really wanting to have this control over my own life, this freedom and flexibility. So it's like there's the divorce, there's the career change, there's the move over to the other side of the world. And I would say amongst all of that, a major healing journey, with regards to the rejection, people pleasing traits, that's huge. That's one I'm still working on, I'll be honest.
Same.
But also, this, and it's like you said before, the healing journey, it never ends. We're always working on ourselves, aren't we, after all? And I think that's one of the big things that I've had to learn for myself, is that when I'm not going to get to that point where I'm like, I've made it now, I've made it, I don't need to do any more work now, it's all plain sailing. And I think the sooner that you accept that and enjoy the ride, as you said before, it is a journey, the more smoother and more enjoyable life can be, rather than the constant stress of, oh my gosh, this has happened, that's happened, why me? When will this happen? When will things get better? But yeah, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. So a lot of it was around, like I say, the rejection, the people pleasing, that journey of my own. And even when I was over in Bali, when I lived there for a little while, there was a lot of humbling, I would say, was the part of my journey there, because then there was starting a business, thinking you're going to be a millionaire in 6 months and all this, and I was majorly humbled over there, I am telling you, because I couldn't afford my rent over there. I didn't know when my next meal was going to be, bearing in mind I lived in one of the cheapest countries ever.
Right.
And I was still struggling. So there's been a huge learnings in that with regards to, you know, overnight success is a lie. It doesn't happen. I don't care what anyone says. And making money and starting a business, you know, it's not easy, despite what social media may tell you, that, you know, we can all be making our 10k months. Yes, we can, but it takes a lot of work, and I've obviously had to learn that as well. And then, of course, the changes of coming back home. But yeah, I think going back to my own transformation, what led me here is I actually started my own podcast myself a few years ago, very much just sharing my own story of going through divorce, career change, moving to the other side of the world, you know, losing it all and working on myself and starting over. And then before I know it, you know, people were reaching out, people were asking for help themselves. And it sort of just grew from there, is the best way that I could say. And one thing just naturally led to another.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. It feels like it was a season of yours that everything was falling apart at the same time, right?
Yeah,
That's
very much
crazy.
so, yeah. Yeah, if when I speak about it now, I think, oh my gosh, you know, but when you're in it, you're just going through it at the time, aren't you? You don't really realize, and then you look back and you think, wow, it's funny how that led to that, you know, and that's just, I mean, they always say, don't they, that everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Sometimes you don't really feel it when you're in it, but it is funny when you reflect back how it's so true.
Right, right. Totally agree. And as of right now, you're helping women reinvent themselves. So, and pretty much you have to do that for yourself first. So, what did your own reinvention look like?
Yeah, I would say the process, the journey was quite fast, to the extent of when I moved into the self-development space, it started off very much with listening to podcasts, reading the self-help books. I started gratitude journaling, affirmations, things like that. Before I knew it, I was meditating and putting my crystals out on the moon for charging and things, and it sort of happened really quite quickly. But I suppose at the same time, as much as it was quick, it just flowed nicely. It was like, oh, I'm going to try a meditation today, or oh, I'm struggling with this right now. So I think it's very much like the self-awareness, which is a lot of what I say to my clients as well. It starts with self-awareness, having that awareness of, oh, I'm feeling this way, or I'm struggling with this, or this has triggered me. Okay, I'll read a little bit into that, or I'll maybe focus on meditation, or work on this chakra, or what have you. So it kind of just flowed quite naturally, I would say. But I guess then they came to a point where if you're not careful, it can become a little bit of an obsession of the fixing that we were saying before. That, like,
Right.
oh, I need to work on this some more. So I would say that journey. So maybe I started like my self-development and my healing, I would say end of 2020, start of 21. And then that's been like, I'd say 5 years. And then it's been a whole learning journey again of sort of coming away from that a little bit healthily, to an extent of actually recognizing that we are the ones that hold the power. And all these practices are amazing, and they're great to maybe as a tool to help you along the way, but they can't become a crutch or a reliance. So then that's been another section of that journey as well.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And thank you so much for bringing it up. And I think that a lot of people are thinking that healing process is something about just crystals and all of those decorations, I would say. But behind this healing process, what was the hardest thing you left behind to become who you are right now?
I think the hardest thing is probably, and as I said before, it's something I'm still working on, and that's people pleasing, which is a pattern really, isn't it? And it is something, it's so hard because I mean, it would be so much easier to say yes to everyone, or to stop what you're doing to help someone else, to put other people first. And it is, like, it is. But then the only person that you're letting down is yourself. And I always say to people that we're with ourselves till the day that we die. So we really need to be putting ourselves first. We have to be our own biggest fan. We have to love ourselves the most. And if we are ever able to give to other people, it has to be from a full cup, doesn't it? So definitely people pleasing. And I think also the art of rejection and sort of accepting that. Mm-hmm. So rejection for me, I would say, on my journey started with a relationship, but then when you start a business, oh my gosh, you're dealing with rejection every single day in business, whether it be related to the Instagram algorithm or leads, networking events, you know, any sort of opportunity. So they are two things that I've really struggled with, because for me it would be so much easier to do everything right so that people would like you. Be the nice person who doesn't have to let anyone down. That has been hard. I think also in terms of other things I've found hard to let go of is definitely the lifestyle, as in when you are building something and taking a risk. You know, I've had a major loss of income from being very stable and consistent as a nurse. And yeah, I wasn't earning a lot of money, but it was stable. I knew every month on this date I would get paid. To step away from that in order to chase a dream, again, I say it all the time, it would be so much easier if I could just be happy in a 9-to-5. Sometimes I wish I could be happy in a 9-to-5, just go to work, come home, get paid, everything hunky-dory, but I cannot. I just can't do that. I'm following this path and I'm on it, but it doesn't make it any easier sometimes when you are chasing a dream. So yeah, that's been quite hard as well.
Yeah, I think it's a little trick we're considering as a stability, but in the reality we're fighting. So it seems like a stability, the marriage or the stable job, as you said, you're getting checked consistently. So, yeah. And that was my life before too. And I remember how everyone was shocking, you know, when I was just revealing that, no, I'm not going to be with that man anymore and I'm divorcing. So, and you also said a lot about expectations from others and judgment. So, and your mind just being hectic. But of course, we got used to be more stable, meaning more safe. But in the reality, It's not about safety and freedom at all. So, yeah.
No.
I feel you.
Yeah, it's the safety of the comfort zone, isn't it, essentially, which is a beautiful place to be, but it's equally extremely restrictive. And there's so much more to life out there, isn't there? But I think sometimes it takes a lot of courage, and I totally understand why some people don't take risks, because it's damned hard. It's extremely hard. And that's why you have to, I do respect other people's journeys of having that stable income and things like that. I think, yes, good for you. I wish I could do the same.
I agree. Yes, totally. And going back to that nurse work, right? So that was feeling kind of stable, but then moving forward to the work you do right now. So I think it's completely different people you're working with, and who is actually the woman who comes to you. So please paint the picture, not demographics, right? But what she's carrying, what she's trying, or where she's stuck.
Yeah. I think, well, I know a lot of the women who come to me are highly self-aware already. A lot of them have already done so much work on themselves. They're already on that path. to the extent of, you know, they've maybe even invested into courses, coaches, gone to retreats, done all that beautiful stuff. But then they're still not quite the person who they want to be. They haven't quite achieved that life that they want to have, and something is blocking them and they don't know what. And at this point, a lot of the women are extremely frustrated when they come to me, because they're like, I know the women that come to me are capable of so much more, that they all are, and they know that as well deep down. So there's that sort of innate frustration, really, of what has gone on here, what has gone wrong, what am I doing wrong at this point. So yeah, a lot of the women, they've been through a journey of their own. They're not necessarily in the thick of it, as in, I've had women who've come to me when a lot of women who come to me have been through their own relationship breakdowns and things like that, but often it's not at the beginning. It's often maybe a year or so later, when they've already done that work on themselves, and they're like, what's the next step? Like, I am ready to be this person now, to claim that identity. Hence why they just need that little bit extra to get them there. But they're already often so close.
Yeah, totally agree. And as I'm always saying, a person needs a person. So, and you said they're going a lot through frustration, and also they're blaming themselves a lot. But whenever the change comes, so what does the real life results actually look like afterwards? So what changes for a woman after working with you?
Yeah. So I think the biggest changes that I notice is that women are actually coming back to me saying, I've took some sort of action. You know, I've actually got somewhere, I've received something, or I've done something. Because as I said before, a lot of the women that come to me, they're self-aware. So they may know that they struggle, for example, with their confidence. You know, they're working on their confidence. Or they may know that they struggle with attracting unhealthy relationships, you know, or they're having issues at work or something like that. So they know that, and they think they're doing everything for it. They genuinely do. But then afterwards, they actually start taking action. So for example, with the confidence, all of a sudden they're going to the gym on their own, they're going to a class on their own. Or I've had a client recently, and she's just gone on her first solo holiday, you know, and she would never have done that 6 months ago. So she's just done that. And then in terms of like unhealthy relationships, it's actually, when you notice the red flags, blocking or saying, no, this isn't for me, you know, it, rather than thinking it, they're doing it, you know, they're acting from that identity essentially. So having the self-awareness, but then acting from that new embodied identity that they've chosen. So with that, naturally, I would say naturally start attracting a lot of opportunities, because they're putting themselves out there. They're doing the work. They're taking actions. You know, they're asking for the pay rise or the promotion. They're interviewing. They're doing what they need to do, rather than just knowing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense a lot, because you've mentioned previously that you're seeing how they're struggling, right? And they're almost there, but they're just in there. And pretty much they cannot do any new actions because we got used to old patterns, and it is really hard to do actually something new about it, because you're so over it. And let's say when moments like that happens, when you're seeing the real difference, not just, you know, that they're saying something about it, but they're doing eventually something about it. So is there a moment with a client that stayed with you and went through this journey that reminded why you do this?
I think more, for me, more than anything, it's it's that overall seeing the change in how a woman turns up, as in, actually, it's something that you can feel, is the best way that I can describe it. Is you can feel that she backs herself 100%. She believes in herself. She knows her worth. And you know what? Yeah, maybe life isn't quite where she thought it would be by now, but actually she's loving the process. You know, she accepts that her timeline hasn't necessarily gone to plan, but she's, you know, embracing her own unique journey. She's not comparing to other people anymore. She's not worried about other people's opinions. She's just in her own lane. And it's almost, that's the best way really that I can describe it, is that embodying. And I think with one client in particular, what I often do with my clients when we finish the work, we do like a catch-up call around about 4 to 6 weeks later, just to see how they're getting on and things. And she came onto the call and she just said that she's loving this whole new journey. You know, she's actually excited about this next chapter, rather than, because it was still very uncertain, she was still sort of in that uncertain period of what's next for me. Am I going to meet someone? She's also unhappy in her job, so she's hoping to move jobs, and she was hoping to move out of her parents' house and things like that. So life wasn't quite where she wanted it to be just yet, but she's actually, rather than hating on herself for it, she's excited about what's to come, and she's actually turned things around. Whereas, yeah, maybe I live at my parents and I want my own place, but actually how lucky am I to have parents that I live with. I can save money and take myself on nice little trips. And the way that her mindset had just shifted to this completely different person, that there's just no way to sort of explain how beautiful that is, really. To just sort of, it's that ultimate confidence and self-worth in self, I would say. Once they get to that, like, the world is your oyster, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what you just brought up is pretty much the recipe, what you just described, like acceptance, right, of the situation, and they're accepting themselves, and they're going back to center. So they're starting remembering who they really are. And I think before all of that is changing of perspective. How you said that they can see the same situation in two completely different angles. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think sometimes it that's all it takes, isn't it? You know, I think when you see things in a different light, it can make things almost like that challenge become an exciting journey to be on, an adventure rather than a hindrance, you know.
Yeah. And I'm seeing how happy you are talking about this, and I have the same feelings when I do practice this with my clients as well, because when you went through transformation yourself, I think you'd like just open this path for others just for a taste, you know, to make sure they can see that, no, it is possible. Because whenever you're struggling, you're like, okay, when I'm done with that, I'm definitely helping others.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens, isn't it? Yeah. It's like you want everyone to know how freaking awesome that they are.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's the key. So, and let's say if woman is watching this right now and she's in that in-between place, right? The old version of herself already gone and the new one not yet formed. What's one thing she can do today to concrete the first step?
I always say that for people that are in that in-between period, that that place is often the worst place to be. And it would be so easy for me to say, oh, you know, just be grateful, romanticize your life, and just enjoy those little moments. And while that is true, and I am going to still say that, because one key thing is that I would say to any woman in that situation is definitely romanticize your life, because I think it just helps you enjoy the little things, whether it be, I mean, for me, having 10 minutes sipping on an iced latte in the afternoon and just taking that moment for myself is just so beautiful. And that's not a big thing, it's really not, but it is just romanticizing your life. However, as I said, that she's probably listening thinking, oh my gosh, shut up, it's not that easy. Like, if you're in the thick of it, it's really not. So what I would say is set one goal for yourself. So if you're in the thick of it, you know, what is the most important thing for you right now? Is it that soul-sucking job that you need to get out of it? Is it the relationship that you need to leave? Is it the fact that, you know, the friendship groups are draining you? Whatever it may be, choose one thing. We don't have to change the world in a day, but if we choose one thing and, you know, write a little list, whether it could be pros and cons or what's really bothering you there, and take an action from that. So, for example, if it's the soul-sucking job, you know, what can you do? Like, what are your skills? Are there other opportunities out there? Could you change departments? It doesn't have to be anything crazy. If it's the relationship that you need to get out of, I'm not saying just up and leave today, because again, that, you know, we need to build up to this. But have you got a family member or a friend that you can confide in? Is there some sort of external support that you can tap into? I think books for relationships, that's just my personal opinion, I think they really help you see the different perspectives and understand your worth, and also understand what's normal and what's not, things like that. Yeah, it's taking just like one issue, dissecting it a little bit, and then choose an action step going forward. That's it. So it's nothing huge, but then if you was to do that 1 week, and then maybe you're working towards that, and then maybe pick something else the week after, or even the month after, it doesn't need to be, again, really quick, but it's slow steps. And what happens is, when you are taking small steps and your mind is seeing tiny bits of progress, it sees the light at the end of the tunnel. It gives you something to work towards. It helps to fulfill you and helps you see that there is a purpose and a mission here that you are working towards, rather than just, oh my God, life's shit, everything's over, what am I going to do? Which we all do get stuck in. And so I would hope for people to know that it is totally normal to feel that way, but there is a way out, and it is small steps.
Yeah, totally agree, because I think it's very important to hear for strong women who are always relying on themselves, but when your whole identity already dead and you're not feeling strong enough and you're not got used to go and ask for help, and you're not pretty much taking care a lot about yourself because you got used to take care of others, it is very important to remember how to take care of yourself, and also don't hesitate to go and ask for help, because I think even this step sometimes it just seems complicated. It is not really complicated in the reality, but the mind giving the idea, oh, it's just not gonna help. Right?
Yeah, and you're just stuck and nothing's going to work. Yeah, we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much for bringing this up. And I was wondering, what do you do for yourself when, let's say, reinvention work gets heavy, if that happens? So how do you stay grounded to make sure you're not taking anything job related on yourself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this work, it does get heavy. As beautiful as it is and rewarding as it is, there are a lot of difficult stories, and you are listening to other people's traumas and struggles and triggers and things like that. And I think it's only natural in this line of work. I think we are naturally empaths. We just are. And that can be difficult sometimes. So I think I always have a little bit of a practice me. Before every call that I have, I actually have a little dance around my room. I put some music on. It's only 5 minutes, yeah, but I just put like a song or two on and have a little dance. And that is to help me turn up to the session in really good vibration, you know, setting the tone of the energy. So that just helps me beforehand. And then afterwards, I would either do the same, or depending upon what happened, what came up, it may even just be a little bit of sage, something like that, just to sort of cleanse and reset. So that's something I do around my sessions. But otherwise, just in day-to-day work, I get out on a lot of walks. You know, I'm always out in nature as much as possible, you know, connecting with the earth, being around water, being in the sunshine. I think that's important anyway. But also, doing things that light me up. I'm obsessed with the gym, so I'm going to make sure that I go to the gym every day, you know. And then equally, I'm still obviously working on myself, my self-development. So that may be, I've got a bit bad at my reading, I must admit. I've not read in a long time. But it will either be reading or a podcast, or I'm very big on my morning routine. I will do either a meditation or breath work. And if I'm feeling extra bougie, I may book a spa day, but you know, that's just when I'm really feeling bougie. Bit of a spa day, also, you know, sound bath, things like that. I love doing little things for myself. I think it's important, but could just be even having a nice long bath with a candle, like just anything where again you're taking that time out for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very important. And thank you so much for sharing your tools. When you just mentioned about the dance, I'm like, oh, this is so great, because I've also recognized just a few years ago that I have to move my body a little bit before I start doing something. And to
Yeah.
me, it is also, you know, those Viber platforms, which are
Oh
like
yeah.
shaking your body a lot. That
Yeah.
helps me a lot, as well as a dance. It was
Yeah.
um, such a trick to me. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah, it is. It's all
very
the
helpful.
vibrations, like you say. It's that movement of energy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this is great. This is great, especially in our 30s. And you've mentioned that earlier, and you talk about starting over in your 30s. Was there a specific moment where you thought this is it? Something has to change right now.
Yeah, I think for me it definitely was. I know I briefly mentioned it before, but it was when my marriage ended, and I realised how I was very happy in my marriage, but I realised how I'd just settled. I'd gone to university, I'd got my degree, I got my nursing career, I'd bought the home with my husband. We were, you know, hoping to have a family. We went on our holidays, we had our nice car and all that stuff. But then when he left, and what's the saying? When the rug is pulled from underneath you, when life just literally turns in an instant, I guess it is that line in the sand moment of, what am I doing? I've just been settling. You know, I'm in a job that I'm so miserable in. I don't want to live this way. And what had happened, funnily enough, which I don't think I'd seen the correlation at the time, but it definitely was profound, is prior to the end of my marriage, I'd actually been on my first ever solo trip to Sri Lanka. And I just did a little bit of backpacking over there. And that opened up that perspective of me, because I'd already had it when we'd been traveling around Asia, of seeing people living very simple lives, but they was also happy. You know, there was such a simple life. You know, they didn't have much money, but the gratitude for life, and they were also smiley and happy. And I thought, we're missing out on something here in England. You know, we're striving for this nice fancy house, and, you know, we have to buy a house because, you know, that's the status thing, and we have to be making this much money and go on our nice holidays. And I kind of thought to myself, I don't want to live a life that I even need a holiday from. Like, why should I have to escape my life to go on a holiday in the first instance? So I think everything together, you know, the trip to Sri Lanka, the marriage ending, me being unhappy in this job and thinking, what the heck have you been doing? It's like I'd been asleep this whole time.
Yeah.
And that really was a wake-up call for me to be like, right, no, this isn't it. And I want that simple life that I can be happy in. And obviously that was the catalyst then of my journey.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, especially on a thing like you've mentioned. You don't have to run away from it, right? But you have to be happy to come back, pretty much. Yeah. So, and let's say if you had an opportunity to connect with a version of you who was just beginning to realize she needed to reinvent herself, but didn't know where to start, what would you say now?
Oh, it very simple, just go for it. So with that, just go for it. It could be someone that you bump into on the street giving you an opportunity, asking the question, you know, go here, do this, do that. If something comes up, go for it. You know, take the leap of faith, take the risk. I think it's just being open to the possibilities that are available, which sometimes when you're in that situation, we're a little bit closed off to them because, as we said before, you kind of, no, everything's hard, this is the end of the world. But actually, when you open up, there's so much out there, and actually this could be, well, this is it. Well, at least that's exactly what happened to me when I was in that situation. It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. So I wouldn't, you know, like I wouldn't change a thing now.
Yeah, wow, this is great. This is great. Yeah, when you walk through that journey already, you understand that if that would not ever happen, I would not be myself today. And that's where the gratitude and, you know, appreciation comes together. And I love also how you're encouraging people to make new actions or any actions when they're getting stuck. I think it's one of your superpowers. And if a woman is watching this and thinking, this is exactly where I am right now, what do you want her to know? Because I'm feeling it might encourage her to do something about it.
I think for me, I would just want her to know that, again, this could be the best thing that ever happened to you, but you have to be willing to let everything fall into place. You know, it's allowing for that, you know, taking it on board, as I said before, taking on board any opportunity, like really. And I guess that brings it back to the work I do, but really learning about you, like what do I want, you know, what do they want underneath everything, like who even are you? And then going doing what you want to do, going being who you want to be. And I think naturally they won't feel it if they're in it, but it's just that knowing, that certainty that it is all falling into place if you just let it, and if you just keep that faith. I think that's what it is, but beneath everything is, regardless of what we are going through. And even, like I say, for myself, the situation I'm in right now, at the beginning of the year I had a few issues and things, and you know, my circumstances aren't exactly where I want them to be right now, but I have that faith, I hold that faith, and that's why I show up every day. And I think regardless of what we are going through, faith, whether you are religious, spiritual, whatever it may be, believing in that, because essentially that power, whatever your beliefs is, it's within us, isn't it? You know, it is. We
As long as you
are.
believe.
Yeah, as long as you believe it. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that whoever needs to hear that right now eventually will find this video. And thank you so much for this powerful conversation. And I
Oh,
was
it's been
one,
beautiful.
thank you. And I was wondering how women can find you, work with you, or just follow along.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. That's my most popular social media because I'm terrible on social media on the other platforms. So I always say to people to follow me on Instagram, which is at itsrebeccaharrison. I am also on Facebook. That's just Rebecca Harrison, but I have my Rise community on there, which is where we hold local meetups and events for people who are in Bolton, for women who are in Bolton. So anyone local in England, in the Northwest, you are more than welcome in that as well. I'd love to see you at future meetups and events. But yeah, Instagram at It's Rebecca Harrison.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And of course, I'll put this information below in the description below this video. And thank you so much for joining me again today. And for everyone
Thank you.
who's,
Thank you for having me.
of course, and for everyone who's watching, subscribe this channel as more podcasts are coming up. Please follow Rebecca and share your thoughts with us in the comments below. So we're here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time.